You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, we're going to be talking more about the smiley face killers and the Lady Bird Lake drownings and maybe a few other things. Today I have Liza with me, the Occult Reject mad scientist. Thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we got William Ramsey joining us. Thank you, William. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Yes, awesome. I'm very happy you joined us. And we got back Drowning Victims. We got Jim. What is going on, Jim? How are you? And thank you very much for coming on again.
I'm great, Nick. Thanks for having me on. Hey, Lisa. Hey, William.
Good.
So, did you want to let anybody know where they can get kind of like in touch with your stuff? I know they like really only have Twitter, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's probably the best place. I'm at Drowning Victims, at Smiley Face Cult on Twitter. Have been for years. I'm on Facebook. I'm just not very active on there. I'm on Facebook as Jim Smith.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
And I'll leave your. I think I forgot to put it in there. I'll leave your link in the bottom after the fact. And real quick, William, did you want to plug your show too, as well?
I just have a podcast. I've done a lot of shows with Jim going back. People were actually commenting on it recently on YouTube, so you can go back and talk since 2016 really. And I kind of got off Facebook, but yeah, I do a lot of posting on X, and I've done 2 documentaries. Jim was the chief researcher in my first too long documentary of 3.5 hours on the subject that I put out in 2017. And then I have a second one called The Global Slaughter Continues about this. And then I just put out a new edition of my most recent book, which is 441 pages now. And that was put out last month or 2 months ago. So I've done a lot. I've done my homework on the subject.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
With Jim's help, as well. And a lot of other people, too. You guys, too. Like, a lot of other people are involved in this. And it's... just looking over things recently, we were talking in the pre-show, like a lot more people are interested in these cases because of what's happening in Austin.
I definitely think, not even like toot my own horn, but I definitely think Lisa and me did pretty good, JJ and everybody else. But the Austin cases, I think we actually covered those pretty well. And there's still stuff that we haven't even actually done yet. We actually do plan on probably doing a case on the MEs. A show on the MEs, which is just that in itself makes these cases less suspect. So that's something to look forward to that we might be working on eventually. But yeah, with the Austin stuff, I was very intrigued in that, and Lisa had tons of info on that shit. It was insane. But I think what we were going to talk about today too, if you wanted to, because I know I've seen Jim posting about it a lot as well. To tell you the truth, a lot of the stuff that if it's not from Lisa, I end up seeing it from Jim on Twitter. There has been new ones even since the last time you came on, correct?
No, I think so. I mean, it just never really stops. It's a constant thing, just depending on where, and it'll cool off for a little while, but then it gets blazing hot again. And I was gonna say without William, I probably wouldn't be even here. William's been a big part of Jim Smith and promoting me and just trying to do anything we can to try to stop what's happening. So I appreciate you, William. I just want to say that I can't thank you enough.
Likewise, the same sentiments, no question. My documentaries and books would not be as thorough without you doing all the research, helping the research.
Woohoo.
Live by a freaking easiest intersection.
We got a race wave by you?
No, I'm like in the suburban town. They use this main street in my town as like a cut through, so it used to be quiet and then it got on ways or something, and now I might as well be living next to a freeway.
No, I think all 3 of you guys do a great job of explaining what's happening in your own way. Truthfully, it's really nice and refreshing, and that's why I'm here. And I enjoy talking to all 3 of y'all because it's it's from a perspective of crime and reality and not conspiracy, because what's happening really, you don't have to explain to people. They can see it themselves if they are able to see the information for themselves. That's what I try to do.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I was even saying. I mean, at this point, especially Austin, I think. I mean, it's just like almost blatant. It's like, it just keeps happening. And like we were saying prior, and I think Lisa was the one who pointed it out to me, actually, too, was like now they're not even listing the people's names, so you can't even look into them.
No, but the police are so embarrassed, and I know for a fact from talking to some people who know people in Austin PD, and I hope the mayor Kirk is listening to this tonight because he's a complete loser, but they're very embarrassed, and they are working this stuff, and they know what's going on. They just can't speak out against, because it comes from the top. They're trying to censor this, but they can't keep all the details. The stuff that we're able to put out, we're able to put together. We have multiple people on the ground in Austin, who I follow, y'all follow. They're in that stuff, man, feet first. So it's really hard for police to hide this. I mean, when Eli was found dead in front of City Hall on Friday, that's what busted that, was because our contact was able to get down there in the middle of the day when a body was being taken out of downtown, and they were trying to pretend like it was an accident or a heart attack. And they weren't acting like it. And, lo and behold, drip, 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 we proved that they were lying. And they got a real big problem on their hands. They're pretending like they don't. But I guarantee, because we posted that picture, they panicked at City Hall. And they're panicking because they can't hold the dam forever. And every single time a man gets found, it's harder and harder.
Isn't it when they decided to stop broadcasting, or they encrypted the scanners?
Yes.
Wasn't it right after?
Yeah.
We posted the picture of the deceased, which I've never done before. I try not to disrespect families as much as I can. I don't want to upset or hurt people's feelings, but we thought it was important to do that. I prayed about it, and I decided that was the right thing to do, and I'm glad I did. But yes, that 2 days later, they encrypted the police scanners because of that. That's insane.
Now, can they? I mean, obviously they can, right? Do that because they have. But can they withhold? I don't know. I don't know the regulations.
I don't think so. Not in a free society. I mean, I think censoring these crimes is a crime in itself, because more people are being murdered because people are acting like this are accidents, and we're way past accident point. We talk about Ladybird, but Ladybirds only half the bodies.
Correct.
People ignore the Colorado River, and there's been a lot going on in Austin.
I think Nick and I had come across this where it's like, hey, wait a minute, there's all these other bodies over in not Town Lake. So Ladybird used to be called Town Lake, but over by Lake Austin, which is further up the river. All these bodies have been found, and nobody's really tagging them as quote unquote smiley face, because they're not in the, I guess, quote unquote Ladybird, and so they don't count them. And most of the stuff that goes out there is people go out there fishing, or they go out on a boat, or they party out on a boat, or whatever. And so it's not your typical, like, he went missing at a bar. But I do know that there has been drownings out there where a person will go out on a boat with friends, and all of a sudden he ends up not in the boat anymore.
Yeah, I don't know about a situation like that. That's a really tough one to judge. But specifically when people are just found there for no reason, they weren't swimming, they weren't boating, they just were missing, and then all of a sudden they found up in Lake Austin. Those are the crimes that I'm really most interested in. And you're right, there's a bunch in Lake Austin. In fact, there's been a couple crimes. In fact, there was a vehicle that was parked on a boat ramp, and it had in Lake Austin, this is like 6 months ago, and there was no body, but there were gunshot wounds. And I wondered if that was something happened during that, because the last two victims have had gunshot wounds. I'm not sure if they were victims, but it sure looked like that. And there's a lot of these crimes that if people aren't looking at through the correct lens, I think a lot's missed.
Right. Right.
So Lake Austin, I think is our victims too. I really do. Lake Austin, it's a Pennypacker Bridge. There's been a couple victims there. Colorado River for sure. So,
Do you think there's any significance to actually picking that specific area?
oh, I do for sure. They're telling us something with the name Ladybird. There's a meaning that we're not getting. They know where the cameras are. I mean, they do make mistakes, the people doing this, but that's why I try to tell people in Austin that this is a waste of time and energy to try to get cameras, because these people just go to where the cameras aren't. The murders will just move, which is I think we're kind of seeing that now, maybe. I'm not sure. School's starting back. I think school starts back like very soon.
Last week of August, yeah. That's when everybody goes back into session, sort of, quote unquote. Everybody has their own. But, and I think we spoke about this, Jim, and I don't think we ever got to talk about this, William, but has anything come of that law? And I have not checked just because I've been super busy. Has anything come of Jonathan Honey's case by any chance that you've heard?
No, not to my knowledge. No.
Because, and we discussed this a little bit with you, Jim, but so Jonathan Honey's parents are suing one of the bars there on Rainey Street, and it actually went out of business, and it was one of the well-known bars where multiple people, if you go on Reddit, have claimed to have been drugged or got roofied or what have you. And so there was a running joke on Reddit that when they saw that the bar had closed, they made a joke saying something like, what is it, the rape drug was going to go, they were going to feel a significant hit in the market because they were closing.
Nice.
And so, I mean, it was a joke, but I mean, it was, I think, well placed of a joke. But the other reason that I ask is because Jonathan Honey's dad is no just regular dad. And I have been waiting to hear something from him. And William, I don't know if you caught, I guess our fourth episode, or even with Jim, in who Jonathan Honey's dad is.
Yeah, wasn't it Welcome Trust? Wasn't he involved in one of the biotechs or something? Is that right?
He is the current Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, and used to be the Undersecretary for DARPA.
DARPA, but I think Jonathan worked for Welcome Trust, right?
Yes, he did.
So
yes, he did. And he was a private contractor and what have you. But I mean, he basically has ties to the National Intelligence or Naval. He basically works under the guy of Office for the Director of National Intelligence, and you almost wonder, how does he has to know something? I mean, he has an arsenal of, tech in order to find something.
See,
I would assume.
between him and Randy Lexvold, because of the stuff that they're involved in, it really makes me wonder if there's like tech or something is involved.
Look at
Something
the
smart.
case of Cunningham out of Georgia was a talented guy, Harvard-educated lawyer.
Yeah.
Disappeared. He was under stress or something was going on.
Well, he said that people were after him or something like that. He was acting funny and he disappeared in the middle of the night. And right?
Yeah,
Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I'm just saying that he worked for
The CDC, wasn't it?
CDC, yeah, I think it was the CDC. So he might have been a kind of internal whistleblower or something.
Yeah, and he was found in a place in the river where they had searched multiple times. That's pretty strange. But you're right. It's not just tech, though. It's also very smart, young engineering, but young, smart Indians that we've seen. You wonder where they're drawing these victims from, because it is somewhere online, I feel like, and they only want smart people. That's why I say these are not dumb criminals. These are not just people they want. And Jonathan Honey, he's like so many others. No one wants to help them. They just want to pretend like that's an accident. But I wonder, is his dad a Democrat or Republican? Just curious.
I
look that up.
don't.
Just curious. It's interesting. I've always wondered, that was politics and everything, and I try to keep this non-political, but because of Austin's politics, you just happen to wonder, are these people who are doing this, are they telling us more? Are they liberal? This is a liberal-run city.
I want to say that, excuse me, I want to say that he may be potentially right-leaning only because of his associations with the military. But then again, I don't know. His mom, Jonathan Honey's mom's last name is Yellen. I don't know if she's related, but it seems like they all run in the same circles.
Been
So
a lot
you
of
almost wonder.
maybe been a lot of Hindu Indians, so that's a common theme of one of the subsets of victims. Besides engineers, right? We've seen a lot of veterans, but Hindu Indians, Indian students. I mean, we went through a couple this summer where there was like back to back to back. Same deal, you know.
Toronto, Vancouver cases were all Indian guys.
That's right. That's right.
And there's more of them. I think there's a couple now out of Chicago.
Vanderbilt, no, Purdue this summer,
Purdue,
where the guy
right,
froze to death, and then there was another victim like 30 minutes the next weekend, and he was another Indian student, and he found froze to death again, and they were both at parties, they both vanished, right? And then they found him outside, and they said they froze to death, and they were put outside.
Well, Jim, wasn't Jason John Indian?
Yeah, Indian, for sure,
No,
for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
What's his dad's name?
Jason Johns or Jonathan Honey?
Yeah, Jonathan.
Honey?
Jason John.
Oh, Jason
Oh, no,
Johns.
I'm getting him
I
mixed
might
up.
get him
I'm getting him
confused,
mixed up.
me too.
Yeah. Honey
okay.
was the white guy, right? Who was last seen at
Holding
the
the fish.
food truck, right?
My bad.
Yes. He was the one that went off to find food and left his friends and then was never seen again. Or I guess he was seen at a taco truck or something like that at the end of it. But he was also, when they did the autopsy, they found amphetamine in his system. And I think they chalked it up to that he had maybe had a medical history of using, like, I guess, some sort of Adderall or something like that. I'm not entirely certain, but I think they chalked it up to that. But then again, it was on the heels of Jason John where they said he didn't have anything in his system, and his mom went and got a second opinion, and the second opinion did find GHB.
Wow.
In the blood. So, but in terms of Jonathan Honey, you're talking about like his dad, like the DARPA guy.
DARPA guy.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
His dad's name, I believe, it's David A. Honey, and he has a PhD. So it's Dr.
But it was John though, so I mixed it up. So then Jason John, the Indian guy, was the one who worked for Wellcome Trust, right?
No. Jonathan Honey was the one that worked for.
So I got it right. Okay, sorry. I thought that there's so many names.
Jason John was out of New York, and then he moved to Austin, and he was working down there, and I believe he was working for Gardner from LinkedIn. It's a tech company or something like that. I'm not entirely certain, but it was big tech or something.
Yeah.
But Jonathan Honey was the one that was like working as a private contractor out of DC, and he flew in from DC. But his dad's no dummy. His dad has a PhD in physics from Syracuse.
Interesting.
So,
you know what I thought was interesting, and this kind of goes back to I was going back like 10 minutes ago when I mentioned that spot, even with Lady Bird Lake, in that area by the dam. There was two things I thought was rather interesting. One, the location, like half of the lake is kind of blocked off because I think of a golf course and like trees. So technically, like, you really only got to worry about one side seeing what you're doing if you're dumping the bodies in that area. But like at one point when we were researching, I mean, I'm just assuming, and this is how I'm looking at it. If this is like all these things are like a correlated effort from a whole bunch of different people, I'm assuming somebody in the police force is going to have to be involved in order for it to go down this smoothly. That just was my opinion. So I started looking into people in the police force and started like looking into companies and stuff that they're attached to or that they own. And like eventually I found like people from the Austin police force. Like they were the captains, I think it was. I can't remember. Oh God, Chacon maybe, it might have been. I don't know. There was a couple of them that ended up like owning companies, and they
Really?
and if you look at like the names that they're on, you'll end up finding them connecting to a Boy Scouts and shit like that. One of those things, and there was like 67 or 60. I think there was 65, and then there was like maybe two more that Bizopedia wouldn't show. Whatever, it was like 65 or something like that. People listed on this Boy Scouts thing, and when we started going through it, it was all like energy people, politicians, and then there was like judges and lawyers, but it was tons of energy. And like, I know it may be a stretch, but I was like, that dam is basically energy to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if there is something involved with like the energy company or something, I'm like, if you know somebody down in that area, I don't know. It's just, to me, it just seemed weird to me that there was a lot of energy and oil and water companies.
That's kind of the business of Texas, though. A lot of energy. A lot of fracking, things like that.
So that's a great point, though, because I will say we're also here talking about the just Austin, and we all know that this is happening in Houston, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, not
Dallas.
some in Dallas. Yep, some in Dallas. The place the place where the kids, St. Padre Island. I guess that's happened before, not so recently, but. Texas is having a real problem. It's just that Austin gets all of the attention, but it's bad. So the whole state's under attack. Maybe that's possibly why, though, because it is an energy state the way it is. I mean, I definitely think that smiley face capital of America is Texas. It's something else people don't understand. Don't you? I mean, it's big and it's spread out. It's been the most active the last 2 years.
But it didn't start that way. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like Texas was the new kid on the block with it.
No, it grew. No, for sure. And that's always been like a theme. Like every year, one state blows up. And last year and the year before, it was either Illinois or Texas. But I think Texas has passed Illinois.
Wow, that's a bold statement. I think you're right.
Do you remember which police chief it was that had like the short gray hair?
For Austin?
Yeah, I think it was Chacon. It might have been him.
Chacon.
Yeah,
Chacon.
I think I'm pretty sure it was him, and like he had a company too that was like some rifle shooting place on 33. Like the address was 33 Rifle something Lane, and then like he was also like having the Rotary Club, like speaking at the Rotary Club, which is associated with the Masons. And I'm like, those people have boats. Yeah, so I don't know. It just seemed very weird. Like it just seems like a lot of weird, shady stuff that I could see making it easy for the police department to be involved in these cases.
Yeah, I've wondered about boats in a lot of these cases, where specifically how people are dumped, and I've said that for a long time. In
you
fact,
have to be doing it inconspicuously, or you'd be getting caught, I think.
Right. I mean, for sure. But these body dumps are in the middle of the night after like 2:00 too. People are not out. These places are scouted, but that's just something that's a great point about the boats. Not every victim, but I know in Lake Lanier, there were a couple victims that it looked like they had been taken by boat. One specifically, I know for a fact, I talked to the lady who has a police dog, and that's her job. Her name's Trace Sargent. She's famous for her dogs, and she followed one of the victims to a boat dock, and then he was found there like a month later. But anyway.
Wow, crazy. Yeah, Caleb Harris too. Like that is updated, right? So they had that autopsy, right?
Yeah.
What was the final verdict on that? That was that he was discovered June 24th, right?
Right. He vanished like 4 days before Riley.
March.
Same week. It was March 4th, I think, where Riley was the 8th, which I've always thought were connected. But he was in really bad shape I mean,
Yeah.
because he was in water so long, I mean, the body would probably almost be able to be pulled apart. I hate to be that graphic.
That's
I actually have a video of them finding him, that I was sent by the people who found him. I posted, I took it down. There's no way he fell in there, right? I mean, he thought he was going somewhere quickly, but I don't think the cause of death has been released. I think it came back inconclusive.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes.
Well, I think it was a matter of the fact that it's extremely graphic, but they couldn't get him all out in one piece.
It's really bad.
Brutal.
And I think what I had heard, at least because I live close to Corpus, I know people, what I had heard was that it was almost impossible for him to have gotten in to that place, just because it wasn't just one lock. It was like the gate was locked, and then the inner gate was locked, and then the door is locked, and then the facility is locked, and then the actual entrance door into that container or whatever is also locked. So it's not, imagine carrying a body through all those locks just to place it in there. I don't see that. I think they had said that they probably placed it in an area where it got sucked in to that retention area.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time somebody's thrown a body into those kind of retention waterways, right?
No. Seen that so many
McNeil,
times.
Andrews, New York City. Yeah, but I had a lot of those cases in my book. I called it the lunar kill cycle, like a brutal kill cycle, because there were so many cases that coincided so close to each other, just like Riley and this guy Caleb. I have Harley Morris and Tyler. So that's outside of Dallas. He's never been found, but that's probably smiley face type killing. Yeah.
I think so. Almost every case that I see a young man that just vanishes, I'm suspicious automatically. There's
late night club out random by himself. It fits all the time.
Well, speaking of Caleb, the one out of Georgia was an interesting one. I think you posted about that, Jim, where they found it. Where I guess he went messing at a truck stop, and then they found his body in like a private open field that I guess they had done. What they had said was a prescribed burn, but it wasn't prescribed because Forestry Service said something about that it was incendiary.
I saw that. I'm not sure if that was connected, although there have been a couple other cases up in North Georgia. That was in North Georgia. That's actually where I live. There's been a couple like in Cartersville, Dalton, Georgia, up that 75 corridor. But I'm not sure about that. In fact, Georgia has really cooled down. There was a recent victim a couple weeks back where they found a guy. He went missing. They found his shoes and his stuff, and then they found him like 2 days later in the lake. And I think it was Lake Barton in Georgia.
Okay.
But it's definitely slowed down here for some reason, which is great.
Okay. Yeah.
But I will say one more about Caleb Harris before we change the subject. Somebody else whose family thinks that he was murdered. That the police are trying to say, this is just an accident. No, his parent. Go ask his parents. For all the people haters and out there, they think this is all made up. No, go ask his parents what they think, and they'll tell you the same thing. They think he was lured, and that he was taken, and that this is a murder. And again, police not listening to victims' parents and making excuses for an obvious murder. So, and just the same as Riley, right? Same week, Riley's family says the same thing, but murdered.
Right. How many of these guys are on their phones? It's like a classic thing.
Thank you for bringing that up.
They're being lured.
Yeah.
Riley was on the phone. This guy, we have evidence. Caleb's on his phone. Cody
Riley
James
was
is on his
hustling,
phone.
man. Riley was hustling down over there, man. He was going over there with a purpose, right? And right after he walked under that bridge, you never saw him on camera again. And there's a dead spot. We confirmed that, and he was put in a car. And since you bring that up, let's talk about the nationwide smear campaign that we just witnessed through the main media. The mainstream media just put out a coordinated effort to smear Riley Strain and protect. They tried to say he had 13 to 15 drinks, but don't answer any questions. It's disgraceful.
Yeah.
It's a core question. Why doesn't anybody see any of these people going in there? That's all it is.
Victim shaming too. I mean, people that are dead, they can't even argue for themselves, or it's their broken parents, or that's it. He was drunk. He was dumb. He fell in. That's so disrespectful and so sad to these people. Their beautiful children are destroyed, and people could care less.
I wonder who's behind the smear campaign.
That's a great question.
Because I do know
places, right? You see that?
Yeah. Yes, I did. And as a matter of fact, the reason I say that is because I'm in the chat forums for the Smiley Face, Austin and Texas.
Okay.
And every now and then you'll see these people come on strong saying that, no, I don't know why everybody's thinking something's wrong here. And, it's all drownings. It's all careless people. Do you know how many people are careless when they drown? I mean, hard going in. Of course, they get banned or whatever. But you're like, who are those people? Of course, they come in under pseudonym, and they're not saying anything. I mean, and a lot of people in those chat forums know that they're infiltrated. So, I mean, they try to be as cautious as possible. But I'm sure they're in there, trying to insert misinformation or like smear campaigns and what have you. But these smear campaigns, I mean, I thought they were pretty hard on Riley. I mean, they were on Twitter and all over the place.
Oh, I got attacked like I've never been attacked ever before on Twitter because of the Riley case. I mean, people came at us viciously. Like I was Satan himself on fire. I mean, it was intense.
Yeah.
Must be doing something wrong. You don't get this shit.
That was the most interest of any case that I ever had was the Riley strain. That was it.
More than Dakota?
Now it's just covered up. I think so. Dakota was different. Like there was something about the Riley strain case that got picked up by the true crime community much more so.
That's a great point, William. But I will say I'm not a big fan of the true crime community, as you know. I love y'all, but I will say that was the first.
Who's y'all?
I don't consider myself part of the true crime community. Actually,
no, well, y'all are great. Y'all are.
Thanks.
I'm talking about attention-seeking people that are a lot of that, and like. I don't understand, but that was the first case I've ever seen the whole crime community work together. There were some idiots going around, tripping over themselves, trying to say this was an accident. And we probably know who those people are, but I'm just going to take the high road. But the true crime committee the whole country worked together. And that's the first time it put pressure on the media like that and police. I mean, they really scared the media and police in Nashville so much that maybe this is why they're smearing and having an organized campaign to push back. But all of that's going to mean nothing the next time that happens in Nashville and people are aware of it.
Jim, was that the first Nashville case?
No, there's been a few, not many. In fact, I have a friend whose son was murdered off Broad Street in 2013 in Nashville, same bridge. They found his car abandoned near it. He had been talking to a couple from Chicago the whole night. There's been a couple in Nashville, but not very many. Which you would think because of the river being downtown and Broad Street. I'm not sure if y'all ever been to Nashville, but there's a lot of bars, and you would think there'd be more. Yeah. I wonder if they want Nashville to be the new Austin.
I do think that. And I wonder if that's why the uptick is now moving, because most of the tech that is located on the river, I will say, there in Austin, are moving to Nashville.
Wow.
If anything, the month of the announcement that certain tech companies were moving to Austin or moving their headquarters to Austin was when Riley strain happened. If not the month before, but it was something very close, and it's eerily weird.
Yeah, we're gonna find out soon. I've been watching. There's a young man that's missing close to Knoxville right now. He's 17 years old. His name's Caden. He's been missing probably 2 months, vanished, and I think he's a victim. I do. I just think that they're picking people from other places in Tennessee, and they're just waiting for it to cool down. And as soon as it cools down, they're going to start hitting those spots because there's a lot of people drinking on Broad Street.
Yeah.
control.
There was one thing that I did find that there was a commonality. Now, I don't know if maybe it just ends up being like this in certain areas, but we never really got too far into the Strain case. I mean, we covered it a little bit, but I don't think I really used as much as I looked into it, and I'm sure Lisa held off on stuff that she had. But one thing I did notice was with Austin and Nashville. Now, Nashville isn't, in my opinion, I don't think it's as huge as Austin with the drinking and the nightlife places for music. But there was, my opinion, it seemed like maybe in Austin, maybe 4 or 5 different people really boils down to owning everything over there. In Nashville, I did notice there was a lot of owners who did own like small little bars that like neither across the street or down the block. You know, so it was just like you kind of saw like a few people really controlling that area. And, you know, again, I think like if something's even up with these places that are being owned, you know, that to me, I think like it might be easier to control what's going on if it's only you end up owning a bunch of different bars. I feel like it's just really easy to kind of control the whole situation down there.
Could be.
I don't know.
To your point, we talked about this with William on when we were talking about Riley really quickly, but the main people that do own majority of the bars, especially the one that owned the bar that Riley Strain was at, is an Ohio-based restaurant group, the TC Restaurant Group, and it's like twin brothers or something, and they had been in trouble with the law of sorts, and they're a majority of the owners down on that strip in Nashville. But it struck me as odd that it's like, oh, really, Ohio? What a coincidence. Because there's also a problem in Ohio as well.
Yeah, but it's been more quiet. But that is a good point. You're definitely, as always, victims there. But it's interesting. I will say that just, you know, Luke Bryan being the owner of that bar that Riley was at last, I truly believe Luke Bryan is actually a secondary victim, as are police. That was a reason why they went to that bar. And I don't know if I can get sued for this, but I'm going to say this anyway. The people at that bar set him up. And that's where that crime started. And that's when the police refused to work that angle, because he was fine until he got to that bar. And then someone supposedly said he did something, and they told the bar, the bouncers, to kick him out. And that's so common in so many cases. This is premeditated and already taught, right? This was set in motion when they got there, and they kicked him out because they drugged him there. And then they knew that how long they had before he started really acting crazy. And that's when it was put into place. And that's where we're missing the story. And that's what happened. So the fact they won't help us, I mean, tells me everything, in my opinion. And what I do know about the Austin, I don't want to talk too much, but you know, the only person who I talked to that survived, and I've told you guys I've talked to Christian Pugh, and you know, he went down to Rainy Street, and he was at a party with friends before he went to Rainy Street, and he was feeling poorly before he ever went down to Rainy Street. I hope those people are listening right now, and I hope that scares the crap out of them. But that makes me think that, you know, Christian was set up even before they went down to Rainy Street, and he was dumped off a bridge into the Colorado River, and just like Randy was.
You know what I thought was weird about that well, after the fact of that case, I'm assuming Jim, maybe William, you saw it too. I know Lisa saw it. I mean, now again, I can't even remember this person's name, so like maybe it's easy for me to make an opinion because there's no emotional attachment to the podcast or the guy's show that he was on. But like I saw him on a show like after the fact, and not for nothing, the guest, the guy who had him on, it was like in my opinion, really weird and creepy.
Which guy? Which guy are you talking about?
I can't remember the person.
Christian Pugh.
Yeah, it had Christian Pugh on, and I was just like, yo, this
he
is
was
like
on a radio station? Are you talking about the Boston victim, or was it Christian Pugh?
Christian
For real?
Yeah.
Christian Pugh from Austin.
Are you talking about the guy on Paranormal Files?
No. He was on some. Maybe I can find it. I don't know, but he was on some dude. I think he might have been like a comedian. He ended up calling up the guy that he went to go see. Yeah, because I guess he knew the guy. He ended up calling him up, and he's like laughing about it. He's like, "Yeah, this guy went to go see you, and he ended up in a coma." And like they're like thinking it's funny, and I'm like, "Yo, this is really weird."
No, it's more than a coma. He had $100,000 in medical bills, and like the other survivor in the same creek where Randy was found, he had similar trauma where like broken vertebrae all upper body. That's common in some of these people that have been found. I mean, Christian, again, he shouldn't even have been alive.
No.
They dumped him because I thought he was dead or he was going to die or just drown, and he didn't for some reason.
There was another guy this year too, just like that, right?
Yeah, the Boston guy who was punched or knocked down unconscious, and they found him right outside Boston Garden.
Right,
at the
that guy.
Sunday game.
Yeah, I did it.
And they had him on a show.
No, right. I've seen that.
And it was weird.
Very weird. They never asked the guy who first found him who he was and why he was the one standing over him in the water at TD Garden. Where Kelleher and I think it was
Hurley close.
William Hurley both.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
More
William
too.
Hurley disappeared right where he was. This guy in I guess it was earlier this year, 2024. No, but there was another Austin guy who got really injured, wasn't there? In addition to Christian Pugh,
in the same creek where Randy, Lori's brother, was found, and that's what he had, like $100,000 worth of trauma too, and it was just like Christian's. It was all upper body, broken back, where something real bad's been done. Again, my point is,
did you see this this documentary about the Austin deaths that came out a month ago on the Paranormal Files on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Okay,
no.
It just came out. It's 3 hours. It's pretty good. But that guy, I don't know his name, but Colin is what he said. He said he was out with Christian Pugh the night he disappeared, and that's why he made that documentary.
Yes.
What?
Yes. I don't know if that's true though. Is it?
That's not what he told me, because he told me he was with friends at a party, and that, that they were all going downtown Austin. They went to a bar on Rainey Street, and that's the only bar he went to, and that he left his cell phone, get this, in the Uber, and he doesn't remember riding in the Uber down there, and he barely remembers being at a bar, and then has no memory for 60 hours, and then he winds up waking up somehow, grace of God, in the Colorado River.
He was found at some like open field close to the lake, is my understanding.
Christian Pugh.
Yeah, Christian.
Yes.
No.
Because
right in front of the, like in the lake, like go back and look, like not in the field, right by the Colorado River. He thinks that he was thrown off the bridge.
Okay.
He was like at the water's edge.
Yes, but he was in the water when he crawled out. Sorry, Lisa.
Okay.
No, that's fine. But he was. I mean, there was dry and there was water. But I think the reason that maybe William were thinking this is because when they said that there's no way, because the claim was that he had been there the full 60 hours.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what the cops were claiming. And then nobody saw him in the brush. There's not a whole lot of brush.
The cops were looking on the wrong day, on the wrong nights when he was dumped too.
But one of the tells on that was that particular bridge houses the Mexican short-tailed bat, and there was no guano on him. So he had to and the bats were roosting that season in that month. And so if he was there for any amount of at nighttime, he would have at least had some guano on him.
Interesting.
And so there wasn't anything. At least for 60 hours, you would have had something on you.
Yeah.
And so that's probably, William, where you're probably getting the whole, because he was like in that area where it's like dry and then it meets the water's edge. And so even if he had crawled out or stayed there, the bats were above in that bridge, and it would have at least somewhat shown evidence that he had been there for longer than he was, if he was indeed there as long as the cops were saying he was.
No, but this guy who made the documentary said that he was out with Christian Pugh the night that happened. So.
I'm going to watch that tonight.
Yeah, so it's 3 hours. It's pretty good. He talks.
It's good. Yeah. He did a good job. I won't, deny him that. I thought it was really well done. But then I had never even heard that he was with anybody. I thought he was by himself.
Pew said he was by himself. Well, they
I
said
thought
that
he was.
Well, I heard it today. I mean, maybe my memory isn't as good as it used to be, but I could have swore the host was saying that was his interest in doing this. He includes some people who I took out of the Austin death cases because their families said they were making a mistake. The documentary is, you can look it up on YouTube. There's an active serial killer in Austin, 20 plus men dead in Lady Bird Lake. And it already has 1.2. That's like the most watched.
Well, and that's okay. So that's my main thing is like, this is the first time he does a video and all of a sudden he has 1 million views.
Right.
I mean, I think Nick and I were talking about something like that, is like with these crime shows, you've never even heard of anything. You've never even heard of them. They haven't been online that long. And then all of a sudden they have over 100,000 views. This one has 1 million views. It just seems weird.
It is weird. It is weird. Though I do think that there's a heightened interest in these cases, Austin,
Yes.
Chicago.
Yes.
If it's
I
on
do.
TMZ, I mean, that tells you everything. I mean, that's literally
Right.
mainstream crap TV.
Yeah, no, that guy, the head of TMZ, is doing a show, doing a segment on the Austin deaths, or a documentary, right?
I wonder if how much of it is the well has dried up a lot for true crime, and that there isn't a whole lot of other true crime things happening except for what we consider SFK. And so, and then Austin's hot because it's, pretty much what is still going. And people are picking it up. It's almost like, they want to get into true crime, so let me pick what's hot
That's
and
true.
fresh. And so, Austin's still, hot, so let me go ahead and do that. I don't know.
That's so true, Lisa. A lot of people jockeying for a career and trying to use the Austin cases as a jumping post. I definitely see that. People that are amateurs too, by the way,
Yes.
and that they are way off. And that's, how do you know when they talk about 20 victims? Like, tell me you don't know what you're talking about, because you don't.
Right. And I think we talked about that, William or Jim, I can't remember, that how they are only considering up to 2021
Right.
victims. They're not
Yeah.
even going all the way back to okay, fine, you don't want to add Riyadh in there, but at the very minimum, 2012, 2013.
Yeah, that's what I saw. 2013, 2016, 2018.
At the very least, I think it's insulted to Cole Christensen, who was in 2012. I mean, you're not going to include him. He's classic SFK.
That's a big year too, for some reason.
It is,
Some years are
and-
bigger than others.
It was a big year between 2012 and 2014. And again, I mean, it's my theory, and I'll keep with this theory. It's the year when you had a lot of the actual quote unquote big tech coming into Austin. And I call them big tech because Austin's always been tech, but you never saw the upper echelon of Silicon Valley moving their headquarters in, or at least talking about it and making plans to do so.
Yeah. Only thing I can think that I've ever seen, like what's going on in Austin, is like what happened in La Crosse many years ago, but this is La Crosse times 10. Bigger town, bigger school, more murders, more places than just the river downtown. I mean, this is something we've never seen before.
Right. I agree.
They didn't identify Eli Blau in this documentary, their unidentified body. This will be interesting. It'll probably be very topical, much like TMZ does, but I'll watch this. I don't think this is out yet, right? Has anybody seen this? This is
I
like
haven't.
the intro to some kind of documentary.
That's great that people are talking about this though, mainstream. I mean, if they start talking about this, Chicago's not far behind, right? Riley Strain, not far behind. This is upstream from what's coming, in my opinion. That they've made a mistake. They've gotten too big too quick. There've been too many murders, and that the conspiracy theory words not being said anymore. But
Right.
this one serial killer, that's something that really bothers me, that there's no way one man could abduct another man,
Jim, do you think in terms of going back to the whole misinformation or planting in information that leads people astray, could the lone serial killer information be a plant so that people concentrate on
Yes.
it's only one serial killer when in fact it's actually a syndicate, but people are not looking for a syndicate, nor do they have that at the forefront of their brain because the narrative is it's a serial killer.
It's crazy. Every single hotspot around the world that we've watched, it's the same argument narrative for everything. Ups, one killer, like, you know, when they were having all these killer these deaths in other cities, it's Chicago's the same way. Oh, is there a serial killer? Austin, is there a serial killer? You know, and just no way.
Right.
Way too big, way too spread out.
I'm glad you brought this up, William. This is the guy. So 4 weeks ago, he posts this. It already has 1.2 million views. It has 6,500 comments, and also, the guy who put this out, he was getting a degree in film at UT.
Yeah, he dropped out.
I think. Yeah.
This I can't have sound on this, but this is the sequence where he says he was out with Christian Pugh. So.
I'm not saying he wasn't, and I'm not trying to delegitimize him by no means, but again, it's just, I mean,
that's nuts.
4 weeks ago, and you already have 1 million subscribers.
That's really crazy. You know, Christian has really not been in the public eye since this blew up, because when this happened in 2018, this was only a couple victims. I mean, it wasn't like what we've seen, the volume, right? What you just said. Right. It was a couple here and there, and then boom, it exploded. And he's sitting there being a survivor thinking like he's really been quiet, him and his father. I mean, we wanted to raise money for him, and I really haven't had a chance to talk to him. And I only talked to him in 2018, right after it happened, when I saw the story, and I reached out to him through social media, and I said, hey, I know what happened to you. I want to talk to you. You know, and anytime anybody's ever survived, when you tell them that, people they open up to you and tell you what happened, because no one understands, and that's what happened to him. No one understood.
Right. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. But again, I don't know. But I'm glad you brought that up, William.
It is kind of suspicious, especially just like
I don't know.
He has had a lot of listens on his other kind of paranormal dark shows, so it's not that far out of the normal. I would say this was probably his most popular listened to documentaries. Let me see. He used to be able to select popular. Yeah, let's see what happens. He's had some million views. Yeah,
It is a hot topic. It is.
This
you can't go.
This is a big story. I mean,
you can't go anywhere, even in Corpus, and somebody say, "So, do you think it's a serial killer?
Wow.
Do you think it's the same thing that's happening in Austin?" You know, I mean, people are talking about it.
You know, I tried to talk to a woman in Corpus Christi. This is totally off topic, but she was found in a submerged car, and she survived. And I tried to talk to her. I actually talked to the guy that saved her. They found her. She had been underwater 24 hours somehow. And when they pulled her to the car, she was drugged and she passed out.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of stuff going on in Texas.
And on the cases in Texas with the male victims, weren't they all scheduled to go fishing the next day? Or have I read that wrong?
All of them?
All four that I know that have been confirmed. Or at least that have been confirmed in terms of like the MO.
I haven't heard that, but I've seen a lot of young men fishing that wind up in the river, and people under weird circumstances. So that doesn't shock me. And it's not.
Well, I meant Corpus. Sorry.
Well, I'm talking about in other places too, not just Corpus Christi, where people fishing. That was one of the things that was happening here in Lake Lanier, where people fishing and then they vanished and their family doesn't know where they are. And these are men that were fishing late at night, and then they wind up in the river. And like that happened like 3 times in one weekend here at Lake Lanier a couple years ago. 3 men, and everybody, and they were saying the same thing. Well, is it possible these men were killed and this is connected to one killer? You know, so that's weird.
Well, and I mean, you almost wonder then that means they were on their phone. I mean, everybody's on their phone all the time, but, were they trying to, maybe were they lured? Were, they were confirming with someone? I don't know. And I do think there is an element of, I'm trying to say this politely, a hookup of some sort.
Yeah.
I do feel that is that is a component to this crime that a lot of the victim families are not coming forth and discussing. And I do think that the families do know a lot more and maybe are just scared, maybe are, don't want to put it all out there because it is their child. But if anything, that's probably one of a big piece of the puzzle that is missing that could help.
I agree.
I don't know.
No,
I agree with you as well. Yeah.
I also,
for sure.
yeah, for the simple fact, I think we were saying kind of before is how I do think it's probably multiple like syndicates or groups doing this, and I'm sure that's probably like an MO for like some certain thing pulling people off of apps.
I've always wondered at sex or drugs, because these guys are going somewhere so many times with that purpose, and they're not just wandering. They're going to meet somebody like Riley. Riley was wandering down the gay street. I'm not saying he was gay, but that's kind of weird. And there's been a lot of other cases that I've talked to families that aren't scared, who are pissed off. And, a couple of them, their sons, they were rumored to possibly be bi or gay, and they've asked, and there's no proof of that, but that alibi seems to be sewed into some of these cases to almost give it an alibi. And that happens a lot, where they say things about a man that's missing, and they only say that to give themselves an alibi or to smear or throw shade at the victim, so where it's almost like, oh, he was drinking too much. Yeah, that's why he's dead. And he was found in the river.
Adventures with Purpose. I find, I don't even want to get into it, but I was actually thought about bringing them up. I don't know if you guys have heard about them. I don't want to get into too much, but have you guys ever heard of Adventures with Purpose?
No, what's that?
They were the ones that I, found Kylie Rodney. I'm probably screwing that up.
That was the Reno case or whatever?
Truckee
thing.
Yeah, it's just weird how it's like, this is like a YouTube channel. I mean, that whole case is shady as shit to me. I mean, you had somebody who was associated with NASA, like, blowing up the internet about information about down there. It's like, it's just very weird. You have the government now feeding people true crime conspiracies on YouTube. Shit like that. You have to start wondering, like, what's going on here. But they found the body, and, like, the thing is like, they're kind of known for, like, finding these bodies, and it's just like, well, does anything ever come from that? And don't you kind of find that strange at this point? I don't know.
Very.
And then the thing is like, not saying it's not saying the person's guilty. Maybe it is a bullshit story, but like, even one of the dudes after the fact, like, recently got popped for, like, some minor, fucking around with an underage person. So now you have to start wondering what kind of people you're even dealing with on YouTube already now with this channel. But I did find that just very, very weird that it's just like, what's the odds of this channel just like finding all these bodies now? And does it actually solve anything? And I don't think it has. You know what I'm saying? It's like, are you just there to find these bodies for us when we need somebody to find them?
Have you ever been smiley face victims, or what kind of bodies are they finding?
I'd have to go look it back up. I was into this like 2 years ago when it was huge.
Okay. Because
or
a
a year
lot
and a
of
half ago.
bodies they're finding in cars around the country where they're submerged. I've always believed that the submerged car angle effect. There's a lot of victims that are found in a submerged car. Smiley face victims, people don't talk about it very much, but all these cars that are 20 years old, 15 years old, they're finding around, pretty good chance same people involved murdered them too.
You know what I think why it really didn't come up about probably smiley face killer or that type of thing is because it was a chick, so I mean, but I mean, I do wonder if there is a female thing out there, and like
There
it
might
just
be.
gets disregarded.
Look up the bully case in the UK, Bulley. It was a big case there, but it fit all the parameters of the SFK crime, but a woman. Let me see if I can find it.
And it may be, and William, you brought this up a while back because you had done a good job covering it, but the killing field, not the killing fields, that's on the other side of Texas. In El Paso, there is these women who get murdered in El Paso, Ciudad Juarez. Well, no, it's Ciudad Juarez. So it's on the other side of Texas. But according to, I guess, Texas, the rumor is that if you wanted to be a serial killer and get away with killing women, that's the place to do it, because there's so much matricide going on there that no one's even investigating it because of how much and how many women go murdered per month, per year. So that might just be, if you wanted, I know it sounds really horrible, but if you wanted matricide, you go to El Paso. If you wanted to, I guess, participate in male, then go to college towns. I don't know if it's like that, if there's like a market for it.
It seems like there was in Juarez. It seems like there was, and there was.
Yes.
There was a concerted effort and a selection process. They didn't have gay male apps or pickups, but there was something super creepy, which was this computer training center where these kind of underprivileged girls who were the children of the maquiladora workers would go to get training, and there was a higher proportion of those who became victims, and the victim count in Juarez is like 2,000. And there was a very creepy, that's Nicole Boy. There's a very creepy guy there who had a sexual abuse charge in Florida who ended up there. He was of Egyptian extraction, and they think that he might have been involved in doing like really dark stuff with women, so it's like a tourist thing, like if you're a sex tourist, if you're like a pedophile, you go to Cambodia or something like that.
Thailand, yeah.
Or and then if you like dudes, you go onto gay apps or whatever. Yeah. And I mean, I think it gets really dark, man. There's really dark parts of the internet. And I did that one part, I think it was in my first documentary where I talked about that sex thing, Kink, the documentary, which is like a reformed old fire department building that was like a castle where they would like torture people, and then people would zoom in. This was legal in San Francisco. Zoom in and watch people get tortured and pay to watch it. Imagine that, but something much, much darker.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if you look at like the List Killer, these guys were into snuff films. There's like Burke was caught with a snuff film, and it gets super duper dark. And there was a section in my book about a psychic named Sloan, and that's what she thinks with all the whatever she's getting from the ether or whatever. Snuff films, traveling, elite people, and that's why they're selecting people almost like out of a pool, out of their own bars. All those wealthy country singers own a bar in Nashville.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard that Sloan's opinion.
I have.
She did a good job on the West Memphis 3 too, actually. So I think she did a pretty good job with the Smiley Face Killers without saying so. But she used pretty loaded terms, saying there are legions everywhere, which is a very potent biblical term, which is Christ when he went out to
desert.
He went out to was a guy who was exorcised a demoniac, and he said, how many are in here? It said legion, and then exorcised them, and the demons went into a herd of pigs. And the pigs jumped off a cliff and killed themselves. That's like the gospel stories, but she uses that term legion in a different context. But it was like she was saying from the other side of the spirit world that Riley was saying that like there's so many of them that they came out of the woodwork. He was in shock, surprised. She said he was surprised, but that's the impression she got. But anyway, this is the bully case. You can read it. It was all over the news in the UK. It didn't make it to the United States. Unlike the other thing, which the Riley Strain case made it all the way around the world. But this was fairly recent, 2023. And she was found, I think, upriver from where she was, which is super suspicious. So she didn't fall in or something like that. Extensive search of the river surrounding land involved police divers, helicopter sniffer dogs, drones. Found no body, and then she was found like 3 weeks later. So classic SFA type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they like to put women in cars. I will say that's with kind of the submerged car angle. You and I've talked about it many times, but the women specifically, sometimes they'll put, if they pick one, they'll put them in the creek, but a lot of times they put women in their cars and push them in at the boat ramp.
Look at how lethal this river was where she was found. I mean, you got to be really careful. Yeah.
Roaring.
If you fall in, you're done. Like,
Roaring.
You better be careful. Much like, I mean, the Cumberland isn't much different. It's not a very strong river.
I wonder if they pick and choose, because these things are happening all the time. But why does one get picked over the other in terms of being portrayed? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's not. These aren't random. No way. I don't think any of these are random. Very rare, maybe they are. A lot of these are planned out. Where people seem to know the people doing this because they're comfortable, or like you said, talking on the phone, where there's a comfortability where these people walk right into a trap and there's no violent abduction. It's quick and it's over. Just like Riley Strain, disappeared off the face of the planet in 1 second.
There was another case like this in Sacramento. I can't remember the girl's name, but it was kind of the same thing. Disappeared, then found later in a river. And I think one of her relatives was a person of interest. I don't know how that was ever resolved, but
I remember.
Yeah, you remember that one?
I don't think so, though. I don't think there was anything wrong with that. I mean, you're right to be suspicious, but I don't think they found anybody. They said it was an accident, moved on.
I have her.
But Kylie Rodney.
Yes.
She was in Illinois, left the party. No, that's not a different girl. I'm thinking of a Hispanic girl in Illinois.
Yeah, Hispanic. That's the one.
There was a Hispanic girl in Chicago. She left a party, never made it to a party. They found her bag next to a pond, and they found her car in the pond 3 days later. She was in the back seat. They had a window down so the thing would ding, and they said it was an accidental drowning. It was absolutely not. But Rodney was too, yes. Back seat as well.
You almost wonder if they need the body to be submerged in water a little bit longer in order to hide the evidence.
I think so. I think so, where sometimes the body's not in there too. Like they're waiting for people to stop looking or for that window to dump, or they also want people found on certain days. I know that, sometimes they want people to be found. Williams said a long time ago that they dump a lot of their victims on Sunday night. That's true. Or we'll dump them on Thursday night where people are found at the beginning of the week or on Friday, and it gets everybody talking and everybody starts freaking out, and then they talk about it the entire weekend. And yeah.
Wow.
Guys, this subject still has great interest. I restreamed it to X, and there's 456 listeners. So,
oh wow,
welcome everybody.
Well, we will definitely have to speak more on the MEs. I would love to take y'all's take on that. It's very interesting. There is some connection to some of these MEs to Ohio. There was the guy who was there, not with. He was right before Riyadh, but he was there for a long time. And he had been, I guess, recruited by Travis County, and he was asked, I guess, to take the place of another guy, another ME that was all kinds of bad, so to speak. But I think it's Dual Link or something like that. The one that was there before was Bayardo or whatever, and that it was. There were so many cases of wrongdoing. I think it was like someone had faked their death, and he said it was a woman when it had been a guy.
Wow.
There was other things where that there was someone sitting on death row, and because of a body or whatever, and it had been completely wrong, the autopsy. And I don't know if the guy ended up. I think he's still on death row, but it was based on an incorrect autopsy done by Bayardo. I believe some of the cases are still even in litigation currently from Bayardo's ME testimony or whatever, written medical examinations. So he was there before Dolink was, and I'm probably saying that wrong, the medical examiner that was there. And Dolink was there for about 8 years in Travis County. So he was there, I believe, from 2006 to 2014, 2015, maybe. So he saw a lot of the cases that a lot of them are not being reported as technical SFK, right? Because I would say that they're only going up to 2019, if maybe 2021, as counting the deaths in LVL, right? But if you look at Dolink, he came from Ohio. And then when he left, he went back to Ohio. And I just wonder, is there a link to the Ohio cases with this?
Interesting.
And, you think, well, he's harmless because, he kind of ran a clean ship. Maybe so. And I'm not trying to, by no means, implicate anybody or anything of wrongdoing. But he has publications with a guy, Dr. Evan Mashes, who was I believe he was sued. Mashes was, I believe he was in Travis County for a little while and then went up to Lubbock. And up in Lubbock, he got in trouble for falsifying medical examinations. I think on one of them, the brother of the deceased had said, wait a second, this is incorrect. My brother didn't have a spleen, yet there was a wait for a spleen. There was another one where the woman had asked for the body of the little girl or something, and the little girl's organs have been shipped to their lab in California. Wow. And so this guy, he wrote a book with Joe Link. And so they keep weird company, so to speak, right? But you almost wonder if there is some sort of connection going on across state lines with different MEs that in these areas. I do know, like, there was an ME that was involved in one of the Ohio cases. Forget her name. Her name escapes me right now, but she was involved in the George Floyd autopsy. Wow. So, I mean, you see some of these MEs that have high profile, kind of in the shadows, so to speak, or testifying, what have you. And then, to me, they're like the unseen person in these cases. No one really pays attention to who are they, where do they come from, where were they educated, what company do they keep, what kind of publications do they release. I know that the current ME from Travis County, I believe he published a couple of papers talking about that if you remove organs, they don't interfere with the conclusion of an autopsy.
Interesting.
I'm not saying that is what's happening. I'm just saying it's
a good point. No, it's a good point. I will say, though, we keep saying Austin's a different animal. A lot of these cases are in different counties where that's allowed for it to go unseen because there's not multiple cases in the same county where then people would really be screaming. It's spread out, right?
Well,
not Austin.
Yes.
But
correct. But I will say this, most MEs cover anywhere between 9 to 40 counties.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Definitely something to look at, especially some of the spots. I mean, Columbus in Ohio. I'm trying to think. Cleveland's had some cases. William, what am I leaving out?
What, for the MEs?
I was just saying, like, hot spots for victims through the years. I was thinking Columbus for sure. Cincinnati, yeah. Cleveland been the most, but that's a great point.
Pittsburgh is close, fairly close.
Yeah.
I always remember that the ME in Pittsburgh for Dakota James. Well, I wish I could find the screenshot I had, but it was somebody from China. It's probably a totally political position, would be my opinion.
Well, and most of them do not have to have a medical degree. You can get elected or appointed to be a coroner. I think that's the difference, right? The coroner is elected or appointed. Medical examiner, you have to have an MD or something like that. And it just depends on the county, what they're open to hiring or what the requirements are. So, and if you can work anywhere between 4 to 40 counties, who's to say that you don't have a coroner in these other counties and you just oversee those as your purview? Who's to say that's not the case either?
Right.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the autopsy for one of the more recent victims in Austin came back, and that was like crazy. Like the parents said that the shot is in the wrong hand. I think it was
Eli.
Eli. Yeah.
Yeah, they said that there's no way that he had a gunshot. No gun was recovered. Front of Lady Bird. His marbling and color doesn't match up to how long he would have been there without being seen. That's obvious right there. Anyway, then they did an autopsy and they said the way his hand being right-handed, it's impossible to him to have shot himself. Anyway,
Yeah, it doesn't add up. Just the changing stories and
Yeah.
things that don't
Yeah.
add up. It's really
I don't mean-
corrupt, super corrupt.
I don't mean to keep beating the dead horse, but if the autopsies are coming back quickly or inconclusive or wrong, why are we not looking at the MEs?
no, I agree. That's what's happening in Austin right there. I mean, they just flat out they're not helping that family. They're trying to say that it was a suicide. They don't want to look into it. They don't want to answer any questions. They don't want to follow any leads. Right? But Detective Gannon stated publicly that he had a chance to look at multiple autopsies of victims in Austin, and that they all had blunt force trauma to the back of the head, and that was not something that was consistent with an accident, and that multiple of the victims had that or worse. Pretty evil stuff.
Yeah, really dark. It's
About to get ramped up too, with school starting and the holidays, with the Halloween around the corner and September. I mean, it's about to get real.
yeah, it is.
Agreed.
Usually does. This last year was really a surprise. Like I didn't think it would ramp up like it did. Really, Chicago and Austin. Just
Me
crazy.
neither.
Yeah.
Me neither. Not to the point where they just kept dumping bodies in Austin, even though everybody's watching and talking about it and tongues wagging, and Chicago. I mean, it's crazy. And to see the people censor it too, William. I mean,
Right.
it's almost
blatant
predictable.
censorship.
Which that
How
shouldn't be allowed.
brazen.
It is brazen, but no one's pushing back. Us. That's it. Very few people asking real questions and demanding answers. Everybody's happy to take the crappy answers and move on. And don't you dare question our crime statistics.
Right. I
Or
mean,
you're
it
an
brings,
evil person.
right. It brings in larger questions like how if they're fudging this, what else are they fudging?
Right.
Right. Which is like even worse. Like
Um,
you can't
that-
trust anything. Everything's politicized and covered up. And
I
that
agree.
Eli case is a perfect example. Like it's a total joke.
It
I mean,
is.
It's a total joke what they did.
Yeah. They're embarrassing themselves daily. I mean, it's I don't know how much longer they can keep the dam up. Covering these
Literally.
crimes. Literally. No, I mean, because if they're dropping bodies in City Hall on a Friday, that's sending a message to those people. They hate. They want them to be laughed at. The police are a secondary victim if they're not involved. Maybe both.
I mean, it's right there. Garza's office is in City Hall, right? Does he have a separate outside of City Hall? Like if it literally just
No, I think that's the
Right
only
in front
office
of
he
his
has,
face,
I
yeah.
believe. I don't know if you've been to that area of Austin. That area is always populated, no matter what time. I mean, okay, maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, but there's somebody out there all the time.
yeah, no, it's incredible.
So, yeah, they thought they weren't. They don't care they get caught, or they know they're not going to get caught. I mean,
They know they're not going to get caught. This is scouted. They know where it's dark and where nobody are. That's a fact. And if they find something that's different, they'll just stop doing what they're doing and they'll just go somewhere else and dump them wherever else.
Who's the DA in Austin now? Is it still Garza or is it somebody else?
It's Garza.
It's Garza.
It's Garza. He was just reelected a couple months ago.
that's right. The
And
election.
that's what I said, that when he won re-election, that the people who won were the people murdering these men, because nothing's going to change and the murders are going to keep going.
Crazy.
All right. I think
Yeah.
you guys have anything else you want to add? Maybe we'll wrap it up here.
Any other cases y'all want to talk about? There's been a lot of cases here. There's been a documentary recently on Justin Gaines. He's my number one victim on my list in Georgia. He left the bar in 2008. There's been a great 10-part document or a podcast done, and it's out there right now. It's very well done. The gentleman is missing the boat, I will say. He is really finding some really interesting stuff, and I do think those people are connected. But what I think is really crazy is that this is connected to something even bigger. Not sure if y'all have listened to any of that, but it's pretty well done.
No.
I've seen you post about it, but I haven't been listening yet. But if people want to see how big it is, like, you can read my book. I just updated it, added 50 more pages, and you can see just the case after case after case. It's not just Austin, so you can just check that out on Amazon. Smiley Face Killers.
Very well done, by the way. It's very well written, very informative.
Okay. All right. So.
And documentaries featuring Jim. You can see the 2 documentaries too on Vimeo, Amazon, or my Patreon too.
Awesome. Yeah, so go check that stuff out. All right. I guess we'll wrap it up there then. That's okay. Jim, do you want to plug like where people can find you on Twitter and stuff?
I mean, my Twitter page is Smiley Face Cult, or Drowning Victims at Smiley Face Cult. That's really where I do most of my work. Gotcha.
And yeah, everybody knows William Ramsey. His links are on the bottom. He was just pretty much saying, go check out his stuff too. And Lisa.
Yeah. On Twitter, Solis Lisa, and Instagram, Lisa Solis. And then also check us out on the Occult Research Institute website. We have a couple of things on there that, if you like to read.
Awesome.
It's pretty good.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you, everybody who jumped in on the chat. That's what's up. I think I saw a few new names in there, too. That's what's up. I appreciate it. Yeah. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.